What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I'm bringing an update to one of my favourite decks, and that is of course going to be 6 Samurai. Now as much as I love this deck to be viable in Genesis, unfortunately it's just not the case because in Modern you need to use your Grandmaster to get you into your Gateway, which is one of the most, if not the most important card for the 6 Samurai strategy, and then when you look at the Genesis, the points are just way too high to be able to utilise it. So you do the next best thing, which is playing it in Modern. Now, to play it in Modern, it does have, it has about 10 slots for non-engine. There's a couple of different options you can consider. You can use it as a bit of a hybrid if you want to consider something like a Radiant Typhoon engine. The only idea behind that one is you would work your way either into a Totem Bird or you'd work your way into a Gossip Shadow just to be able to kind of counteract Droll or Nibiru. The other side to that one is that you can work your way into a Canine package, and then again the exact same idea behind that one is you'd go into Ripper. So it gives you a way to disrupt your opponent, but it also gives you a way to set up a negation to deal with probably one of the biggest or the biggest issues against this deck being Droll, Nibiru, but then on top of that you do have to take into account like Molchomi, Fualosses and Perulias, because your end field is not going to be that oppressive in comparison to modernized decks if you are hit with any of those cards. So I'm going to take you through this list, I'm going to show you what I've got, I'll explain the type of cards that I'm utilising in order to kind of counteract stuff like Drolls and Nibirus and everything else is in between. So, with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. So starting off with the 6 Samurai monsters themselves, we're going to be going with 3 legendary 6 Samurai Kizan. These, like, the 6 Samurai cards are just always really kind of cool. Again, I wasn't around playing the game when these first came out, so I never got to enjoy Gateway at 3. I never got to really enjoy the original potential of legendary 6 Samurais, but it's one of these ones that's kind of really stuck with me over time. And I really liked playing a hybrid back in the day with True Kings, which I think could be really cool to kind of look at now, especially with having access to Lithosagan back, with Diagram now back as well. It kind of increases the consistency of the deck because the idea is you get to use different 6 Samurai monsters to get benefits from them. So in a version like this, when you don't really rely on Fuma or Kizaru as much, on the flip side of that, if you were to play the True King version, Fuma and Kizaru become your main important pieces. So that's something that I quite like doing as well. Unfortunately, back in the day, you would work your way into True King of all calamities and then just lock your opponent out, or technically turn skip them. But you did put everything onto the field. Like if your opponent had a way to stop you getting your entire field in play, then you're in a little bit of trouble. But it kind of just gives you a little bit more to kind of work around with. And yeah, I digress. Anyway, Kizan is your extender. As long as you control any other 6 Samurai monster with a different name, you get to special on this card from the hand. Not a hard once per turn, you do it so many different times, and with Gateway being able to add from the deck and the grave, once you get it from the deck to the hand, you then just constantly keep recycling it. The main normal summon of the deck being your Kageki, so you don't really have any other 6 Samurai monster you want to normal summon. One of them triggers on special summon, being the Kizaru. All of the others, like the Anarchist and the Tactical Monk, are all extenders. So they're all cards that you kind of need to already have a 6 Samurai on the field already, and so is the Kizan. So you don't ever really want to normal summon anything else apart from the Kageki. To increase your consistency to your Kageki, we are also playing Smoke Signal, and I'll talk about that in a short while once I go past the other level 3s that you're more times than not going to want to search with it, because your Smoke Signal can become either a starter in Kageki, or an extender in the form of the Anarchist or the Tactical Trainer. So these are the most recent additions that the deck got. Well, not the most recent, but like the most recent main deck additions that this deck got. Finally, we had a Dark Monster that was actually really important for that attribute. But the idea behind both of these is that they are level 3 and level 2 tuners, which can really help you get into your Synchro level 5 of your Shien or your Synchro level 6 of your Shien. So the idea behind both of these is if you control a 6 Samurai monster other than themselves, you get to special summon from the hand. On top of that, they also have a really good effect that if they are sent to the graveyard, you then get to add either particularly a... Now, I've got to get these the right way round, because this one lets you add a... Sent from the field to grave, you add a 6 strike, and then your Anarchist adds you a 6 Samurai quick play. So the cards you're going to be able to search over the back of those, as I quickly go ahead to them, will be your Asceticism, your Double Strike, and your Cunning. Now keep in mind this is your 6 Samurai, this is 6 Strike, and this is 6 Samurai, so you can kind of see where the consistency lies on the other ones. They also have additional effects, and I'll talk about these again in a second. So this one is that when it was used for Synchro summoning or Synchro material, the Synchro monster gains the effect the monster your opponent controls lose 500 attack. On this one, the levels of all your opponent's monsters are reduced by 1, which can make it quite awkward. Unfortunately, they can't reduce to like level 0s as far as I'm aware, so it doesn't really help you against the yummy matchups, but it can make them a little bit awkward, and that's kind of what this deck hasn't really been able to gain or maintain for the modern environment. Going back to the 6 Samurai cards and the 6 Strike cards, I'm waiting for more 6 Strike cards. I know there are some in existence, but I feel like these are quite tame in comparison to like the modern game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I feel that they could go one step higher, but they're still really, really good cards for the deck. So Cunning, you send a face-up 6 Samurai monster you control to the grave to special summon a 6 Samurai monster from either player's graveyard. Now the best thing about this one is that your Shien is a soft once per turn to negate. So if it negates on the field and you use Cunning to send it and bring it back, you can then use the effect to negate again, which I quite like doing. The Asceticism is you target a 6 Samurai you control, you special summon a 6 Samurai from the deck with the same attribute but a different name. And if you do, you destroy it during the end phase of this turn. Very rare you leave it on the field for the end phase of that turn, but it is something you might want to consider. And then Double Strike allows you to apply one of 2 effects. If you special summon a 6 Samurai monster with 2,000 or less attack from the hand or graveyard, or you change a monster your opponent controls with 2,000 or less attack to face down defense position. During the main phase, you get to banish it from the grave to target a 6 Samurai monster you control. 6 Samurai monster in your graveyard and add it back to the hand. But you can only use 1 effect per turn. If it was like you can only use each effect once per turn, it'd probably be a little bit more effective. But it's still a really kind of cool card for the strategy, which is why you want to be playing it. Speaking of ways to get access to these cards, we are playing 3 Shien Smoke Signal and 1 Reinforcement of the Army. Like, Reinforcement of the Army will get you access to all bar 2 of the next monsters that I'm about to show you. But the idea is that your Smoke Signal can search you out a starter in Kageki, it can search you out an extender in the form of your Tacticians. It could also search you out your Hatsume, which I quite like to play, but this is one of these cards that I want to special summon later on in my turn to extend my plays that little bit further forward. You don't really want to start with it because you need to have your 6 Samurais in the graveyard already, and that's where you might want to consider something like a Forbidden Droplet to help you set that up. I decided to go down a different route because I didn't want to be burning through my hand resource, and that's one thing to consider. So Hatsumi has the ability to banish 2 6 Samurai monsters from the graveyard to then special summon 1 back from the graveyard. So you need to have 3 6 Sams in the graveyard already to do that, but then it will open up the door if you bring back a Tactician to go into a Synchro 5, or if you bring back a Monk, you go back into a Synchro 6. So it can be really, really useful. It's still quite good in the True King variant that I was mentioning earlier because it's a water attribute, so it lets you use Barastos, which is really cool. For the other one-offs, I've got the one Uraza. I still quite like to play this. This one is mainly off of the back of the Asceticism because this one will give you the ability to kind of turn... once you search Asceticism, once you work your way into your Grandmaster, your Battle Shogun, let me just quickly get ahead to it. So once you get into your Battle Shogun, you can then utilize the Asceticism to get you Uraza to the field. This would obviously, in a scenario where you've already got Gateway, you're going to activate this, summon out the Uraza. Uraza would go to the zone that the Battle Shogun points to, giving the Battle Shogun 1 Bushido counter. And then hopefully at that point you've got Dojo or you've got Gateway, and you're going to start adding Bushido counters to it. Another card I do like the idea of, just because it helps you get Bushido counters to the field and clears out the 2 zones that Battle Shogun points to, is to play the rank 4 6 Samurai monster, the Spirit, but the idea is it does take up a slot in the extra deck, and that's something you might want to consider as a player on preference. The last 3 6 Samurai monsters I play is the one Kizaru. So as mentioned previously, this one is really annoying because this one is when this card is specifically special summoned. There's a couple of ways you can special summon it. The best way is off of the back of Kageki, but you are not playing 3 of this card just to do that effect. It's one of these ones, if you have the ability to special summon it out later on in your turn, whether that be through the back of a Skuldred Saruja, whether that be right at the start of the turn because you've opened up this with Kageki, it lets you add a 6 Samurai monster from the deck to the hand, but it has to have a different attribute from all monsters that you control. Not just 6 Samurai monsters, and it does also include itself. So you will never be able to search an Earth with this, which makes sense because you would just search out your Kazan, and your Kizan just goes, cool, summon itself down. It does become a lot better in the True King version, as I mentioned, because you destroy the Fuma, and Fuma, quite like other 6 Samurai monsters, are soft once per turns. So you destroy a Fuma, you special summon out Kizaru, and at that point, the Kizaru can then search you out another Fuma for the follow-up. And the other benefit is that with Diagram and with the True Kings, you're destroying your 6 Sam monsters. So you're able to destroy your Fumas. Fumas then floats into more 6 Samurai monsters, and you just go on and on and on and on without really needing to commit your normal summon. Then the penultimate, or the last technical Six Samurai monster, is the Grandmaster of Six Samurai. Quite like Kizan, it's a free extender as long as you control a Six Samurai monster, and you can do it as many times as possible. It's just a level 5, which sometimes open up the doors for some different synchro plays. Other than that, you'll use it as link material. And then the final Six Samurai monster that isn't a Six Samurai monster because it is the Great Shogun Shien, is if you control 2 or more Six Samurai monsters, you get to special it from the hand. Your opponent can only activate 1 spell or trap per turn. If this would be destroyed, you get to destroy another Six Samurai you control instead. Now remember, when you're ending your field, and this is where like the Six Samurai end field is kind of contradictory, is you kind of want to be this on your opponent's trap cards. And what I mean by that is, if you are going to be ending your turn with Nat Beast, you shouldn't ever really worry about spell cards. But the other is you still need to let 1 spell card resolve, because if you never let that spell card resolve, this lock never comes into play. So what you'll see more times than not is that you use this as another extender to get to the field. There are ways to try and bring it back off of the back of Gateway, so that's something you can utilize a little bit more. But the idea is, you're going to be trying to end your field with at least the Great Shogun Shien, and then you're going to be trying to back it up with your Legendary Lord Six Samurai Shien, and then maybe your Legendary Six Samurai Shien. Legendary Six Samurai Shien, woo, negates a spell or trap your opponent activates. So if you negate the activation, they've never actually activated it. So that's one thing to remember. Like, even if they activate something and then your Great Shogun Shien, it's not, the lock isn't applied. It has to activate and resolve, or you just negate the effect. If you negate the activation, it's never ever really activated. And that's the big difference. Like, this card, if it literally just said negate the effect rather than the activation, would have been golden, because keeping in mind that there are cards in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! That are basically you can only activate once per turn, and if you negate the activation, they just get to activate another one. So still really good. I'm not taking anything away from it. You're always going to be playing it, but you're probably going to be using it as a more of an extender than anything else. Then for the Six Samurai like spell cards, we've got the one Six Samurai United. You could consider to play more of this if you wanted to. I've tried to keep the deck at a 40 minimum. I think I'm bang on 40, or I'm on 41. I think it's bang on 40. I made a change right at the last minute that I think took it back down to 40. But the idea is that your Six Samurai United is a card that can contain Bushido counters, but it can only contain 2 maximum. But you can also remove counters from anywhere on the field with Gateway, including United. And then you can send United to the graveyard with 2 Bushido counters, or even 1, to draw 1 card or draw 2 cards. It's just another one of the cards that can hold Bushido counters and then get you some advantage later on. The one Gateway of the 6, I would love this to come back, because then it takes the reliance off of your Battle Shogun, because at the end of the day, one of the weakest points in this deck is that when you get to your Battle Shogun, your opponent can Ash it, they can Imperm it, they can Veiler it, they can just stop it getting that search. And if you stop getting access to the Gateway, the deck does really start to struggle, because the Gateway is the thing that produces Bushido counters very easily, and then allows you to constantly keep taking Bushido counters off to search out your extenders and your Kizans, Kazarus. Honestly, I don't feel that this would be a big issue coming back to free. The only big issue if this did come back to free is the fact that I would have to find 2 more quarter centuries, which would be incredibly painful. So I might need to look at those a little bit later on and pick them up. But you never know. And then I've got 3 Shien's Dojo. This card's really, really good. So again, this is another card that you're going to be utilizing just to hold Bushido counters on it. But each time a Six Samurai monster or monsters is normal or special, you place a Bushido counter on this card. You can send this card to the graveyard to special summon a Six Samurai or a Shien effect monster from the main deck whose level is less than or equal to the number of Bushido counters. Now, very, very, very rarely do you ever want to send this before you get access to Gateway. The idea is you want to keep this on the field, and the only time you would ever send it before you get access to Gateway is for the pure fact that you need to get another Six Samurai to the field. Other than that, you want to make sure that you have 2 cards that can constantly keep maintaining Bushido counters between this time and the Gateway, because then ultimately what you're doing is that every time you summon down a Six Samurai monster, when you've got this in Gateway, is you're always going to accumulate 3 Bushido counters and just going to keep going and going and going and going. You could play the water and the fire if you wanted to. I personally don't, because the whole idea behind that one is that you play Gargagar Cowboy, and you basically just loop Gargagar Cowboy back with Daugusto Emerald and FTK your opponent, and that's not the way I want to be playing my decks. So I tend to go more of a combo orientated route. Nothing against those that want to play it that way. I just feel that maybe that's what's holding Six Samurai back. Maybe that's why Konami are like, no, Gateway can't come back to free, because you'll just do stuff like that. But I still really like it as a combo piece, and it works out massively important. Then for the non-engine, I've gone with 3 Mulchami Fuelos. I just feel in today's modern game, to let your opponent run rampant on you if you're going second is going to be very, very painful, because most of the current end fields right now in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is so difficult to try and break. Not that it's impossible to break, but it does, like, it is stacked against you. When you look at Yummies, they're probably going to end up on like Yummy Surprise, Snatchy, Herald, and a lot more recursion. You look at Dracotel, they're probably going to end up on like 3 trap cards. This is probably like the weakest card against, like, of all of the type of decks, like against Mitsurugis. So Mitsurugis will have Murakumo, they'll have the counter trap, Futsu, just constant recursion. And when you're trying to play a deck like Six Samurai, you're obviously going to be up against it. So you can sub this out for a Perulia or a Meows, whatever's going to be most effective for your environment. But something like this in a more balanced format or a more balanced environment will really stop your opponent running rampant. Sometimes they'll end on a much less of a field if they don't know what you're playing, and that gives you enough chance to utilize gas to push further forward. Speaking of Mulchami Fuelos, we've got 3 Ash Blossom. Now this is mainly going to be in here. Yes, you can disrupt your opponent, but it's also a really good card for you if you're going first and they try and Mulchami Fuelos you. Because at the end of the day, you need to always try and counter the Mulchami Fuelos, because the next card that I'm playing to deal with that doesn't deal with directly the Mulchami Fuelos, it deals with Drolls and it deals with Nibirus, which are just as big of an issue as anything else. So the next card I like to main deck is free Sales Ban. Now, you shouldn't ever really activate Sales Ban and call a Mulchami, because they'll just go, okay, cool, chain the Mulchami. So that's not something you want to be doing. You want to be able to activate Sales Ban, call Droll and Lockbird. Whether they have it or not, at least you know you're going to be safe from Droll and Lockbird. You call Nibiru. Whether they've got it or not, at least you know you're protected from Nibiru. If your hand loses to a single Ash Blossom, again, you call Ash Blossom, you lock it out. The other benefit of going second with a card like Sales Ban is, depending on what they have on the field, you can go Sales Ban, call Snatchy Yummy. And they'll be like, right, well, they need to use Snatchy Yummy then and there to then continue their plays. And even then, it means that the Snatchy Yummy won't be able to do its recursion plays for that rest of their turn. You can call Herald of the Art Light, and you're trading 1-for-1 with the Herald of the Art Light. Other cards that you can trade 1-for-1 with, you can also call Feymana, which means they can't Feymana you to then go into an Arfulion to then target and return your cards to the field. You can go Izuna, which if you do this before you activate any cards in the hand or graveyard, again, Izuna can't do anything. And another card that I really wanted to utilize to deal with stuff like Holly Sue, to deal with the Arfulion, to deal with cards like Izuna, or even what Izuna wants to try to work its way into, because they can be disruptive turn 0, is Forbidden Chalice. Now, of course, you can play Forbidden Droplet if you wanted to. That is absolutely fine. I've just tried to lean myself more to Forbidden Droplet a little bit, for the pure fact that it gives me that reactive option. It gives me that option to try and be a bit more reactive when they're playing during my turn. Droplet can still do the same, but at least I don't need to burn resource to do it, because with Six Samurai, there's a lot of time you'll burn for a resource. So when you consider you're starting off with a hand of 5, right? If you start off with a Kageki would then ideally summon a monster from the hand. So that's 2 cards gone already, you're back down to 3 cards in your hand. If I'm then starting to use Forbidden Droplet, I don't ever really want to be using Forbidden Droplet to send a Dojo, to send a United, to send a Gateway. Like, the only time a Droplet would be effective for me is if I'm trying to send a card that would then dodge a targeted effect. And at that particular point, all of the cards that you have that want to dodge targeted effects, like Kageki, like your Battle Shogun, you kind of still need them on the field, because the Battle Shogun will allow you to gain Bushido counters. Your Kageki, you still need it on the field, even though you're trying to summon another monster from the hand. You still need it on the field to make your plays, otherwise you then need another extender in the hand, and then straight away your hand of 5 went down to a hand of 3, which then goes down to a hand of 2, not to mention you've just used Droplet, it goes down to a hand of 1, so a lot more to kind of consider when taking that into account. So that's it for the entire main deck. Now to move you on to the extra deck. In regards to side deck, before I really get anywhere to it, I tend to go more for field breakers than anything else, or play format specific hand traps. And what I mean by that is you'll start to utilize Droll and Lockbird, Artifact Lancia, maybe Nibiru, depending on what you're considering. Other ways to help you deal with Droll and Lockbird and Nibiru are, of course, Call by the Grave for Droll and Lockbird, and then the Crossout Designator, because the Crossout Designator could deal with Fuelos and Droll and Nibiru. So if you only had space for one, Crossout is probably the better option for that. But again, the way that I looked at it was Sales Ban would get the job done against everything apart from a Fuelos, and then that's where the Ash comes into play. So moving on to the extra deck, let's start with the Synchros, because I feel like the Synchros is like the core component of a Six Samurai deck. So we're going to be playing 2 of the legendary legendary Lord Six Samurai Shien, and 1 of the original legendary Six Samurai Shien. Now, already pretty much mentioned these, but I'll go through their effects in proper detail. So the legendary Six Samurai Shien, the original, is it once per turn when your opponent activates a spell or trap card, you get to negate the activation. Now keep in mind it's when they activate a spell or trap card, not when they activate the effect. So if it's already facing on the field, you're going to have a bad time. Negate the activation if you do destroy it. If this card on the field would be destroyed by card effect, you destroy another 6 Sam instead. Legendary Lord 6 Samurai Shien is if this card is synchro summoned, you add a 6 Samurai monster or a Shien monster effect monster from the deck or grave to the hand. Only use each effect once per turn. And then once per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, you get a quick effect, negate the activation if you do destroy that card. If this card on the field would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you destroy one other monster you control instead. So very nice that they've got that destruction built-in protection. But remember, neither of these are hard once per turns. So if you're able to take them off the field and bring them back with Cunning or just anything that will allow you to revive during your opponent's turn, those effects are back active or even revive during your turn. Then we've got the one Inishi and we've got the one Kizan. Kizan's the only one that doesn't have a foil upgrade, so please, let's get that foil upgrade in the next year's Megatins. So your Inishi, basically these are more so for going second than anything else. You could sub them out if you wanted to. But your Inishi is warrior monster you control gain 500 attack and defense during the battle phase only. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If this card is synchro, you get to banish any number of 6 Iron monsters from the grave, target that many monsters your opponent controls and return them to the hand. And if it's sent to the graveyard, you get to special summon one of your banished 6 Sound monsters. So it can act as a bit of an extender for you during your first turn, but more times than not, you're going to be using it as a disruptor or like a field breaker, I guess is the best option to think about. For your Kizan, 6 Sound monsters you control gain 600 attack and defense during the battle phase only. Only use each of the following effects once per turn. During your opponent's main phase, quick effect, you banish one 6 strike card from the grave, then target one card in the field and destroy it. But now keep in mind, this is only during your opponent's main phase, not during yours. So if you're going second, you're probably not going to go into this, but going first is still kind of a good piece to end on. If you control 2 or more 6 Sams, you get to special summon this card back from the grave. There's one of these cards that you could choose to synchro into it and then bring it back. But when you're looking at which level 6 you're going to go into first, you're definitely going to go into your Legendary Lord to get that negate on the field. And that's another way to kind of protect against Nibiru, more so than Droll and Lockbird. You can get into this before you make a single search, but to do so, you then need to get 2 more extenders to the field to go into your Battle Shogun, otherwise the protection's just not there. For the other synchros, we're playing the one Naturia Beast. You can main deck the Barkion as well if you wanted to. Ultimately, I think Barkion is great if you get to do it against Dracatel, but when you think about it, if you're ending your field on a Naturia Beast and a Barkion, you should be winning the duel, no matter what, because you say no to spells and no to trap cards. I kind of felt that if I go first against Dracatel, and I'm specifically making a Barkion, that Barkion's going to be no use to me whatsoever until the next turn. The only way you can get the most advantage by making a Barkion going second against Dracotels is you would then have to put everything in defense, which is nearly impossible for your normal summon. Your opponent would then need to forget that Barkion exists or maybe not expect you play Barkion. And then you'd have to go, cool, synchro into a Barkion. It still then needs you to have extension plays. It still means that the Barkion is well susceptible to Fey main into Arfulion to return. It's not an automatic winner. So I kind of felt that Barkion is probably better sided so that when I know I can get the best out of it, I can side it in. The last synchro monster is the Omega. This is just one of the ones that can rip a card from the hand. It clears off space on the field, but then can also recycle some of your banished cards. Then the insanely important Battle Shogun. I really hope that in the future this gets a Starlight Rare upgrade because it is that core and component. So if it is linked summoned, you discard a card to add a card from the deck to the hand that will allow you to place Bushido counters on it. So you can search Dojo. More times than not, you'll search Gateway unless you've had the Draw of the Gods and been able to draw said Gateway. Then we've got the one IP Masquerena to lead you into the SP Little Knight. I am playing the Underworld Goddess. This can very easily be the Gorgon or Zillaphenia, but the idea is that this is just a way to out a Liger Dancer. You can get monsters to the field quite easily, and you kind of get them to the field, and at that point your opponent's like, okay, cool, well, you're not threatening me right now, I'll let you keep going, and you just go, cool, Underworld Goddess. It does require you to have extender after extender after extender, but it's just an option you can consider, and as I've already mentioned, you can take it out very easily. Got the one Saruja Skuldred. Now, in the Burn version or the FTK version, you play 2 of this. In this version, you're only playing 1. It's just a nice way to extend a Kizaru, to extend a Hatsume, to refreshen your hand if you need to, and everything else in between. Last 2 cards I've got are the rank 4 cards. I've got the extender in the form of the Dagares because being able to draw 2, ditch 2 is absolutely fine. Revive, double attack, everything else in between. And the Baguska is if you do get absolutely brutalized and your opponent goes, okay, cool, Ash, Imperm, and then goes Perulia, Fualos, or heck, Droll and Notbird, you just go into a Bagooska and you have to hope that is enough to kind of stead you out until the next turn. It's not perfect whatsoever, it's just an option to have. It's the exact same approach that I'll have with Dark Worlds. If my opponent hits me with my Kryptonite card, being something along those lines of Droll and Notbird, or being along those lines of a Mulchummy, and I'm like, I don't want to give you more advantage. I'm just going to give you one draw. I'm going to make the Bagooska. My Bagooska is going to hopefully lock you down for an entire turn. Come back to me, and then I can play freely without needing to worry about a Mulchummy. So that's it for the entire profile and the extra deck. If you have any questions, by all means, please put in the comments down below. I'm always happy to answer them. This deck is really more so for fun than anything else as it currently stands, unfortunately. It's just one of these ones where modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of, it hasn't caught up to modern Yu-Gi-Oh! I suppose is the best way to say it. Now, I'm not saying it needs to catch up to modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And it needs to be a meta defender and everything else in between. I actually quite like it being a casual deck. I like decks like this that aren't in the public eye as much because it means that they are a lot more fun to build, they're a lot more fun to play around with, and if you are more of a casual player to that extent, it also means that you can go to local events like maybe the charity event at the end of this year and play something like Six Samurais and just have fun and enjoy it. And that's what I really like about Six Samurais, that when I do bring them out, everyone's like, what? What do they do? How do they play? And it's just really, really fun to use them. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe. And of course, happy dueling.